Good morning, DFS friends, and welcome to another edition of DFS Today. This is your Wednesday, February 2nd edition. We have a nice 9-game slate for you here today. I am your host, Santino Cacone. I'll be running this one solo, filling in for Mike Apatria. We have a nice game here for you. A nice 9-game Wednesday slate. Not too many short slates this week so far. We had 7 on Tuesday, a full one on Monday. Thursday looks pretty bright. But we are here breaking down the slate. Before I get started, I want everybody to know that we have a brand new fantasy sports partner at Sports Ethos, and that is Thrive Fantasy. Prop up with Thrive Fantasy at their mobile app or at thrivefantasy.com. What you do is you pick the best only all-star players, pick their player props, win points for every prop that hits. The players with the most points at the end of the night win a share of the nightly prize money. It is fantastic. We'll get into some after. Do give it a whirl and get 100% of your first deposit matched up to $100 plus either 2 or 4 free game tickets by the code ETHOS when you're signing up. That's ETHOS. All right. Without further ado, let's get right into this slate. For some reason this year, I've noticed a lot doing these podcasts. We do them late at the night before. I'm doing this one like 11:30. There's just not a lot of spreads coming out early. We usually get the spreads the day before. This year has been changed. It's probably because there's so many people out, so many people in, so many people out. Not full lines of spreads out there already. We never know who's playing in each night, but we'll start with this one. First game tipping off at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Orlando Magic on the back end of a back-to-back, taking on the Indiana Pacers. On the injury report for the Magic, we don't have anybody as of yet since they are on the back end, but we can confidently say Fultz, MCW, Isaac, Moore are all out, and likely Hampton as well. The usuals there as they've been out all year. And on the other side of the ball for the Pacers, we have Goga. We have Brogdon, McConnell, Sabonis, Turner, Warren, all out. And Brissett is questionable. They have Goga listed as questionable on the official injury report. They did rule him out earlier. Maybe something has changed. Not sure. But we'll see about that. So without further ado, let's jump on over to the Magic side of the ball. There could be people missing. They could possibly bench a Mo Bamba on the second night of a back-to-back, possibly Cole Anthony. Who knows what happens here? Maybe one of the veterans, Harris or Ross, who could be traded. Not 100% sure, but keep an eye on that. See if any of those guys are missing. Because if they are, more minutes to go around for guys that I like Okiki at 4,500. If there's more minutes to go for him on the wing, whether either forward spot, that'll be very beneficial towards him. Franz Wagner, 5,900. That'll help him out if there's more minutes to go around. I really like Wendell Carter Jr. It's going to be a good matchup for him at 6,200. And I like him in this play. And even more so if there's no Mo Bamba. It means he gets more minutes at center as well. So keep an eye on that. But those are the 3 guys I'm looking at the most. Jalen Suggs a little bit. I do prefer to pay up for Wendell Carter Jr., that extra 400 and Franz Wagner, or pay down. But if Harris and Ross are both out or Cole Anthony, that'll change some things up. So keep an eye on that. Even Mo, not even Franz. Mo can get in the mix here. Mo Wagner if Mo Bamba is out. So keep an eye on that as well. But as of right now, I'll assume everybody that played tonight is in. Carter, Wagner, Okiki are the guys that I'm liking here. On the other side of the ball, if Brissett is out again, then we know Isaiah Jackson is going to get a ton of run. He jumped all the way up to 5,400, and rightfully so. But he is well on my radar if there's minutes in the 20s available for him. The last 3 games, he's had 27, 28, and 46 fantasy points, and I expect that to continue. This is a good matchup for him. This kid is real solid. He can rebound, He's very efficient shooting the basketball and finishing around the rim. And he's getting stocks. He gets a lot of stocks. So if there is minutes in the high 20s available for him, yes. Even Brissett, if Brissett is good to go, he still should be heavily in this rotation in that price range. So I like him here. LeVert at 8,200. Everybody's out on the squad, so he should get a ton of run and a chance to do things. I don't hate him, but I don't love him. He's on the teetering on that line there, just because this team is looking towards the future at the moment. Unless everybody gets healthy all of a sudden in Turner and Sabonis comes back, and maybe they play Warren if he gets back. But right now they're playing a lot of their young guys. So I'm not huge on LeVert, but the matchup is just very good for him. With that said, Dwayne Washington, 3,700. He's getting a lot of run here. 25, 24 minutes. He's played at least 23 minutes in 4 of the last 5. And he's brought back some solid fantasy points there. 3 games out of the last 5, he's had at least 28.5 fantasy points. That's some very good value for a guy under 400 in the price tag. So keep an eye on him. And Terry Taylor, he's playing as the backup center right now. If Brissett is out, there's 20 minutes available for this guy in a decent matchup. So at 3,500, another option to take a shot at here. If for some reason LeVert is out, Chris Duarte becomes very much in play for me. But this is a game that you could load up on in a very ugly, not sexy game, but a bunch of people just very cheap. Like Holiday and Craig are also playing a lot of minutes at 4,700 and 4,200. For me, though, I'm preferring at most Isaiah Jackson. You can lock him in right now. I love that price tag for him. Dwayne Washington, very high on that. And then Taylor and Duarte if people are missing. So if Brissett plays, I can forget about Taylor. And Brissett becomes in play for me at 4,100. He should play 23 to 25 minutes again. And they do actually have a spread for this one. I didn't mention it. 219.5, and the Pacers are 5-point home favorites. One of the few that have a spread out. Next game of the night, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We have the Washington Wizards taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. There is no spread for this one, but there is an injury report. And this, the Wizards are also on back end of a back-to-back. Thomas Bryant actually left tonight's game early after 16 minutes. I doubt he plays. He was able to walk off the court pretty much on his own after first couple steps on his own power, but it didn't look great, so I'm assuming he's going to miss this one after pretty much missing a full year with that ACL injury. But on the Sixers side, we have Furk and Korkmaz, Shake Milton, Paul Reed, Ben Simmons, all out for this one. We'll start with the Wizards, and Beal is already out. Thomas Bryant, was the newly imported starting center, is also, I would assume, out for this one. And then maybe a Dinwiddie's out, back end of a back-to-back. We don't know. We got to keep an eye on this. We know he's a guy that likely would rest. So keep an eye on that. See who starts at center. Probably Harrell. Gafford barely played tonight. Even with the injury to Thomas Bryant, Gafford played 6 total minutes. So that is not greatest. Harrell played 26 minutes, put up 20 points, and at 4,400, absolutely love him, even in a rough matchup here. They're probably going to have to start Gafford because the size advantage of Embiid and Trez and his not great defense, he's going to get dominated there. But at 4,400, you got to like him here. Kyle Kuzma, again, had himself a great game. 25 points, 11 boards, a couple assists, and a couple stocks. Without Beal here, he becomes a very solid play again. He put up, now that's 2 straight games of 50-plus points. Even in a tough matchup like this, at 7,500, we can expect some very solid play here. And then again, as I mentioned, Spencer Dinwiddie, he played 31 minutes against the Bucks. This is the back end of a back-to-back. Not sure if he's even going to play this one. So extra facilitating possibly for Kuzma and more shot opportunities for him as well. With that said, Aaron Holiday drew the start. He only played 19 minutes in this one, but he drew the start for Bradley Beal. If he draws another start at bare minimum 3K, we can give him a chance here. And again, Spencer Dinwiddie might not play, so that only bumps him up. I do really like Advia. If Dinwiddie doesn't play, I prefer him over Holiday at 3,800, and I prefer him over Nito at 3,800 or 3,800 again. Both those guys are at bare minimum. And I like him here. He played actually 22 minutes, had 6 and 6, didn't do great, but there will be extra opportunity in the event that Dinwiddie doesn't play, who had 9 assists in this one. So keep an eye on that. If Dinwiddie does play, then I will X out those very cheap guys and look at Kuzma and Harrell the most. And possibly Gafford, who's 3,100, and he's going to have to just play in this matchup. I can't imagine him not playing at least 19 minutes. I want to say in the 20s, but the way that he's pretty much out of the rotation right now, I don't know if he's going to get thrown right back in, but I mean, he's got to play against Embiid. And likewise, on the other side of the ball, we have Joel Embiid, who I mentioned. He's averaging 52 fantasy points against this team, 34 actual points, and 10 rebounds. He's not averaging much else. Only 1 assist per game in 2 matchups against the Wizards, 1 block, and a half a steal. If you add those two, he's averaging over 4 assists a game. On the year, 4.5 assists, and he's averaging nearly 1 or 2.5 stocks on the year. So while everything else is really good, scoring, rebounding, the other peripheral numbers aren't great against this Wizards team. And that's the reason he's only, and I say only, averaging 2 fantasy points. I do expect a lot better in this one. Again, if Daniel Gafford is not in this rotation, Montrezl Harrell is not going to stop him. Maybe that's why he doesn't get as many assists, but I expect him to have a dominant performance in here. So Embiid is squarely in play for me. Seth Curry hasn't really hit shots lately in the last whatever many games when he plays or doesn't play. Since he's come back from that injury that he had 10 days off of, he's only 7 of 25 from the field. But he's pitched elsewhere, 13 assists, 3 steals in those 2 games. Bring back points in the 20s regularly. Expect a little bounce back from him here. His shot will, I expect to start falling. If that does, 5,300 is a very good price tag for him. Those are the 2 guys that I'm looking at the most on this side of the ball. All right, jumping on over to Charlotte. We have no spread for this one, but we do have an injury report. Bobo PJ Dozier out for the Celtics. Then we have Gordon Hayward is out, returned to conditioning. This could always change. I know they ruled him out already. This could always change, as we've seen regularly. Jaden McDaniels is also out, and Kelly Oubre is probable for this one. News that we'll have to keep, and this tips off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oof, just fumbling words here. But we'll have to keep an eye on Gordon Hayward, obviously. He's only 5,900. Yes, he's returning to competition. He did get cleared from the protocols, but this is now about 11 days, 12 days now. So he could possibly be good to go here. We've seen this many of times. People ruled out in the injury reports, only to get upgraded later on in the day as the day wears on closer to tip-off time. So I can't really count him out, even though he's listed as out right now. And if he's in at 5,900, that's just a really, really good price going against the team that he last played for in Boston. Against Boston, in Boston, under 6K. Would really, really like Gordon Hayward here. If he does sit out again, Kelly Oubre right under him at 5,400. He missed the last couple games, but last game he did play was against Indy. He put up a whopping 58.5 fantasy points. Really good to go there. Extra minutes if there's no Hayward. I might even draw the start, so keep an eye on that. Plumlee has been playing really well, and good thing we don't get docked for missing free throws, because that's one of the knocks on his game right now. Outside of that, everything's been fine. He's been rebounding the ball really well. He has at least 9 rebounds in 4 of the last 5 games, and that's 2 double-digit ones, including a 17-rebound game. His assists have been really solid in those 5 games, too. 3 of them with at least 4. Getting a bunch of steals, averaging a steal per game, a couple blocks. And he has 2 double-digit scoring games in those last 5 as well, something that he hasn't been doing. So Mason Plumlee, another guy, 5,300. Makes little sense. Now that Kelly Oubre is probable, they can play smaller, but Hayward might not be there, so a lot of Hayward's minutes could go to Oubre. So both those things all of that changes this rotation because we know the Hornets like to play small. As far as LaMelo and Bridges, probably not going to have much exposure to them. I'm leaning more towards those very solid mid-range players here. On the other side of the ball, things get a little more interesting. Charlotte loves to run up and down the court, and you can't have some big games against Charlotte. Jason Tatum's averaging 45 points against Charlotte, 26, 6, and 5 in 2 games in 38 minutes. He is 10,600. Jaylen Brown, he is only 8,700. In 2 games against the Hornets, he's averaging 47 points, 25 points, 7 boards, 4 assists. I do prefer Brown of the two. That's a near $10 or $2,000 difference. We'll take that very much and go with Jaylen Brown in this one. I think Jaylen Brown's in a fantastic spot. I also think Robert Williams is in a very good spot. He had a very great game against these guys, scored over 44 points in his lone meeting. And we know that they like to play small. Plumlee has all the accolades I was saying, how good he was playing. He still is not on Robert Williams' level. Robert Williams can have a very solid game all around here, offensively and defensively. 7,200, slightly high, so I don't know how much exposure I'm going to get to him. But in tournaments, going against the grain, I don't know if he'll be too highly owned. This is a good matchup. If I had to pick him or Jaylen Brown, I'd try and pay up that $1,500 difference there. Marcus Smart, solid matchup too, only 5,400. He had a nice 27-point game against guys in his lone meeting, but he shot 3 of 12, 1 of 9 from the field. He isn't the greatest of shooters, but that's just poor, very, very poor. Add a couple extra shots there, one or two extra threes. He has himself a nice 33, 34-point game there. So I like Marcus Smart in this one as well. Those are the 3 guys I'm mainly looking at: Brown, Smart, and Rob Will in that order. All right, jumping on over to the next game at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We have the Memphis Grizzlies taking on the New York Knicks. We do have a spread for this one. It is a low 217, and the Grizzlies are 4.5-point road favorites. We have on the injury report Dylan Brooks out, Derrick Rose out, Steven Adams questionable. We'll start with the Grizzlies. They are the away team. Now that most of the team is back outside of Brooks, the run of Melton, who was playing really well and still very cheap, we can probably leave him alone now. He went up to 5K, and then everybody came back, and he wound up playing only 15 minutes. But now Tyus Jones is back. Kyle Anderson's back. Bain is looking good. Everybody's pretty much back. We can leave him alone. In this matchup, if Steven Adams misses, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark become very intriguing to me. I like Jaren Jackson Jr. when he's playing the 5. It's a big boost to him. And at 6,900 in this matchup, if he is playing the 5, really like him here. I mentioned Brandon Clark at 4,200. Extra minutes available for him if Steven Adams misses. If Steven Adams is in, I'm going to forget about him. But if he can see himself in the mid-20 role like he did a couple games ago, against the Knicks at 4,200, really like that. And Kyle Anderson is another guy who would benefit from Steven Adams out. They might put Jackson at the 5, and he would either play the 4 with Jackson or play the 4 with Brandon Clark. So the extra minutes available for him at only 4,700. I like that there too. And then Ja Morant. Pretty high priced. Him and Desmond Bain, 7,100 and 10.5. Bain is coming off a monster 34-point game, 34-7, 52 fantasy point game on 21 shots. I would try and get Ja at the Garden. I love people playing at the Garden, especially when they're playing elite like Ja, who has the last 2 games only scored 44 and 48. I say only because 4 of the 5 games before that, he was in the 60s. I think he can get right back to that in this matchup. The Knicks really aren't the defensive team that they were last year. Kemba Walker could be had. Alec Burks could be had. Anyone else that they want to throw out there could be had. 10-5. I think Ja is the play on this team. Or in the front court if Adams misses and everything else drops there. On the other side of the ball, not really too intrigued by anyone. Randall's a little bit high price for me, not playing like he did last year. Barrett, 7,100. I think I like other options there. Kemba barely played in the last one. He only played 19 minutes or 17 minutes in the last one, went 0 of 2 from the field. Hasn't really done much since. Alec Burks is kind of hit or miss. He's mid 5.5. He's more for tournament plays for me, but he barely played outside of the last game either. I just really don't like many people here. I want to play Cam Reddish, but he's just not in the rotation right now. Quentin Grimes, I don't know what he's going to play. This is a team and against a very good defensive team right now that I'm just going to leave alone. All right, next game of the night, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the Houston Rockets. No spread for this one yet. We do have an injury report. Garland, Markkanen, Rubio, Sexton, all out. Rockets have Garuba as out. Right, jumping on over to Cleveland. With Garland already ruled out, we can look at the last Jedi. He started the game last game, played 38 minutes, and then didn't start in the second half. Brandon Goodwin did. He had 12 assists, though, while he only shot a pitiful 3 of 16 from the field and 0 of 7 from three-point range. Still took 16 shots, still played 38 minutes against the Pelicans, and dished out 12 assists as a point forward here. He started at point guard. He's more of a forward, but we've seen last year in stretches when both guards were missing as well that Jedi when he is the last Jedi in that guard rotation, he has a very solid all-around game. He can dish out assists. Didn't expect it to happen last year, and he did it quite often. And we know he could shoot. He's much better than shooting 3 of 16 from the field and missing all of his threes. So on the season, he's a 35% three-point shooter, 42% from the field. But if he's taking that volume, 16 shots, and he's getting a lot of opportunity to facilitate and handle the ball, yes, at 4,600, he's going to be one of the guys that I'm very much targeting. If you're going super, super cheap, yeah, Brandon Goodwin. He started the second half, and the last one dropped actually 21 actual points and in 27 minutes. Went 8 of 11 from the field, almost 26 fantasy points. He's the bare minimum at 3K, so you can take a look at him. And guess what? He's facing Houston, not a defense that anybody is scared of. So, yes, I do like him. Rajon Rondo might get more exposure, but Rondo's pretty much locked into his high teens, low 20s role. I don't think he's going to get thrown into a 30-minute role here, even without Garland, as we saw the last game, and I don't expect that to change. So Jedi and Goodwin are going to take the most advantage of that. Moving on to the other two guys that I'm interested in. Both of them are in the front court. One of them is Evan Mobley, going against a team that could have drafted him, decided not to because they had Christian Wood, but I like Mobley in this one to have a little bit of a bounce back. Last game he shot 1 of 7 from the field. Before that, exactly 12 shots in what feels like forever. He's just taking 12 shots there. I expect a little bit more. I know he's more of a defensive-minded guy, but a little bit more against Houston. I think more is going to be available to him, and I can see him hitting 40 in this one. He's been regularly around the 30 mark for most part, outside of the last game where he just laid that dud on offense. I expect 40 points from him in this one, and I do like it. And Kevin Love is another guy I'm looking at. Played 33 minutes in the last one, did have 40. He has 40 points in 3 of the last 4 games. He's now 7K, so it's just a big bump from that mid 6Ks, which gives me a little pause for concern, but I do think he's safe. I think he's safe for another 30 points if they can play him even 25 minutes in this one. Very good matchup. Doesn't have to do much work. And we know he's one of the better passing big men in the league. They're going to need a little bit more of that with Garland out as well. So those are the 3 guys that I'm looking at, 4 guys that I'm looking at the most on this side of the ball. On the other side of the ball, they're going against a rough and hard defense, especially on that interior with Mobley and Allen there, and both of them being able to step out, especially Mobley. I don't really want to look at anybody in the front court, but in the back court, Kevin Porter Jr. is back, 6,600. I think that's a solid price tag. He has, in the last 6 games, he has at least 7 assists, 3 of them 8, 9, and 11 in there. If his shots start falling, he's taking mid shots and he's shooting a little bit better. 6 of 13, 5 of 12, 6 of 14, 6 of 12, 6 of 12 in the last 5 games. Bring back some solid points there. Bring back regularly in the 30s, mid to high 30s there. So I think value to be had here. especially without Garland. A lot of the defense is out. There's no Rubio. I know it's tough around the rim, but if shots start falling a little bit, that's helpful. And then KJ Martin, 3,900. The guy's still playing. Played 19 minutes in the last one. He kind of woke up Seth Curry after that, but he's bringing back 30 or over 20 points in four straight games, and there's a 30-pointer in there as well. So value is having there at such a cheap price. So I do like him here, even if his minutes are still in the low 20s. Jumping on over the next game at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder taking on the Dallas Mavericks. No spread for this one, but we do have an injury report. And that injury report is Sterling Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., Kristaps Porzingis, Isaiah Roby, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, all out for this matchup. We'll start with the Thunder. They are the away team. Josh Giddey, 7,900. Now that there's no Shai, we can expect this guy to take on more of a facilitator role. He's only had 9 assists in the last 2 games, but both of those are also double-digit rebounds, double-digit points. Once those assists start falling a little bit more, which we know we can do, he's averaging 6 assists per game on the year. I expect that to bump up a little bit more, maybe 7, 8 without Shai. He has potential for a triple-double. This is a tough matchup against the Mavs, who've been a fantastic defense, but he's averaging 38.5 fantasy points against these guys, 11, 9, and 7 in 3, or 11, 9, and 8 pretty much in 3 games against these guys. And now there's no Shai. So even more, a little bit more potential to bump those up to possible triple-double. I think he's worth taking a flyer on in tournaments here. Outside of him, everybody is pretty much just cheap play here. Ty Jerome is a guy that I'd be looking at 3,200. He had the most assists on the team last game and only played 21 minutes, shot 3 of 10 from the field. But he's been a better facilitator than guys who are starting over him, like Aaron Wiggins, Trey Mann, who's starting in the backcourt. So that would be a very cheap punt play there at 3,200. Basically, another guy I'm looking at. Without Roby, they don't really play favors. Without Shai, he needs to do a little bit more. In the last 2 games, he has at least 26 fantasy points, 5 of 7 shooting from the field in both. I can see 25 to 31 minutes in this one, especially since the Mavs do tend to play smaller. I know Porzingis is not there, but they do put Kleba at the 5 a lot, so we could see Bazley mashing up with them at the 5, and at 4,400, I'll take some chances on that. If you want to take a chance on Mann or Wiggins, they're both in play from 4,200 and 3,500. They're starting. There's opportunity without Shai, but I like the other guys a little bit more. Jumping on over to Dallas. This spread is going to be pretty big. Dallas is home, even without Porzingis and Hardaway for the year. Not Porzingis, but Hardaway for the year and Porzingis for this game. The spread's still going to be big. Luka is 11.6. He's still not 12K, but the dude's been just falling. 71 points in his last game against Orlando. Probably a similar fate here against an equally bad team. He's averaging 54 points against these guys in 2 matchups and averaging a triple-double, but only 17 actual points scored on average against the Thunder. That's going to change. He's been starting to hit a stride. He has back-to-back games of over 30 and 3 of the last 4. The last 5 over 30 points. I can see him getting closer to 30 than 17, so I expect a big game here. And 2 of the last 3 games, triple-doubles, 3 double-digit assists in the last 3. I expect a nice game here, and I will have a lot of shares of Luka. Outside of him, Dorian Finney-Smith at 4,400 and Maxi Kleba, both in play for me at their cheap price tags. Again, no Porzingis. Brunson is in play, but a little higher priced, and I like other people more in that price range. So 2 more cheap punt plays that you can go with, 4,400 and 4,100. And I keep an eye on Marquise Chriss. Bare minimum 3K. Played 19 minutes in the last one, 16 before that. Got up 12 shots. 20 shots in the last 2 games in his last 35 minutes. 20 shots in 35 minutes. And then the stocks are coming. He has 5 blocks and 4 steals in those 35 minutes. Someone to keep an eye on. Has over 24 fantasy points in 2 straight games. Keep an eye on him. Bare minimum 3K minutes are available with Porzingis out against this team who doesn't really have a traditional center. They have Favors, but outside of him, they don't really play much. So we might see a lot of Chris and Kleba front courts. And if you can get 25 minutes here at bare minimum 3K against this team, that will be a nice play. Jumping on over to the next game. Now we start going to the late games. 3 games at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The first is Brooklyn Nets on the back end of a back-to-back, taking on the Sacramento Kings on the front end of a back-to-back. We don't have an injury report or don't have a spread for this one. But we do have an injury report. The Kings have Bagley. Terrence Davis is now out for the season. Both out. De'Aaron Fox as questionable. Don't have anything for the Nets. Obviously, they didn't submit it yet. But Durant, Aldridge, Joe Harris, Paul Millsap, all out for this one. And then got to keep an eye on a lot of these other guys on the back end of a back-to-back. We never know what the Nets are going to do. But that is for later. Or I guess I should say that is for right now. This is going to be a tough one to throw people in. But we do have options if you threw in like a Kyrie or a James Harden and they wound up not playing. There's 3 games that start at 10 p.m. or later. So there are some options if you throw in these guys on most of your team starts. Make sure you're putting them in your utility spots or forward guard spots if you're playing anyone that you might not be able to, or you're not sure if they're going to play at the moment. So that's standard, but just reinforce it tonight whenever someone's playing on a back-to-back, especially in this season. If everybody is playing that play tonight, Nick Claxton, 4,600, becomes a guy I'm intrigued in. There's already no Aldridge. Blake Griffin is back in the rotation, but not fully. And Claxton really isn't fully back in the rotation yet, but he's someone to keep an eye on. I really like this kid when he's getting minutes in the high 20s to low 30s. And James Johnson, he played the most minutes the other night at 26 against the Warriors, played 38 against the Nuggets in his last 2 games. No Aldridge. They kind of go small sometimes. We know that Blake Griffin is only in the rotation when only playing meaningful minutes when absolutely needed. Nick Claxton just still getting his legs back under him, I guess, since missing some time. So James Johnson's been playing a lot of minutes there, and at 4K, he makes a lot of sense. Sticking to the big guns, Kyrie, James Harden, both certainly in play against the Kings, who just lead points to backcourts. I would, again, prefer Kyrie to get the discount, but James Harden honestly has 70-point upside if his hand's good and he's ready to go a ton of minutes on the back end of a back-to-back. Right now, this game, starting the fourth quarter, James Harden has 31 minutes. Kyrie has 27. They're both having great games. I can see a potential triple-double for James Harden, so I do like him here a lot. Claxton started, has 17 minutes entering the fourth, so that is a good sign there. Hopefully he's ready to go in this one. If any of these guys are missing, we'll go right to the backups. Like if Harden's out, Kyrie Irving becomes great. Patty Mills, awesome. If Claxton's out, I'm looking right at James Johnson and Blake Griffin. And vice versa. If Kyrie's out, James Harden becomes a must-play, and Patty Mills becomes very intriguing again. On the other side of the ball, a lot of it's going to depend on De'Aaron Fox. If he's out once again, Tyrese Halliburton will continue to be part of my lineup. He did have that big 38-point actual scoring game, 59 fantasy points 2 games ago, and then he had a letdown, 7-16. Didn't have many rebounds. This is a matchup against a Nets team on the back end of a back-to-back that is going to be very, very fun for him, and I like to play him anytime I don't see a De'Aaron Fox in there. And if Fox is out, we already have no Terrence Davis, who starts a lot, but that means Davion Mitchell, who's now drawn the start. He has 4 straight games of over 30 minutes. With that kind of workload and the kind of opportunity that is in front of him, 3 straight games with at least 5 assists and at least 15 actual points, he becomes a very good play here at under 5K. Anytime Fox is missing, Mitchell was always a name, but now there's no Terrence Davis, who was the backup guy anytime Halliburton or Fox missed. Terrence Davis was drawing the start there. Now it's Mitchell. Now we can ride Mitchell at 4,900. He's getting close to Buddy Hield territory, who's in a decent matchup on his own, but Mitchell does more than just hit threes. So I prefer Mitchell there at the couple $100 discount. Rashawn Holmes, 5K, another option for me. Starting to play a little bit more. Played 26 minutes and 31 minutes the last 2 games. Hasn't really taken a lot of shots. Hasn't really done what he was doing earlier in the season. The last 2 games he does have 5 fouls, but against the Nets front court, that's going to be on the back end of a back-to-back. Should be better suiting for him. We don't have Bagley, so Meadow is going to play some power forward minutes, 3,800. We saw Mo Harkless start in the last one, but Meadow played 25 minutes, even though it was a 20-point loss. I expect him to get more minutes here, too, and he's another option here. I think there's some good options here with a lot of people out. All right, next game, second to last game, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Denver Nuggets on the back end of a back-to-back, taking on the Utah Jazz. No spread for this one. The Nuggets don't have an injury report. Again, another team on the back end of a back-to-back, but Murray, Porter, both out for this one. Cousins missed the last one. Kincaid's also out. We'll see if anybody misses. Jokic came into the day as questionable, ultimately suited up. Maybe they sit him in the back end of a back-to-back. But we'll certainly have to keep an eye on that. Barton was missing some time, so keep an eye on him. Anybody else could just miss, so keep an eye on that. But right now, we don't know. That's just speculation. On the Jazz side, Gobert, Mitchell out again. Ingles, sadly, lost for the year. Daniel House is out in safety protocols. Hassan Whiteside and Trent Forrest are both questionable. All right, we'll start with the Nuggets side of the ball. If Jokic does play, 12-6, yes, he's still in play here. He is great against this team regardless. He's averaging 63 fantasy points in 3 games against the Jazz this year, averaging a triple-double. Last year did the similar thing. He does well against Rudy Gobert. No knock on Gobert, who's one of the best defenders in the league, but Jokic absolutely loves this matchup and loves the challenge. And guess what? Gobert's not even here. It's Hassan Whiteside, who is also himself questionable. And Hassan Whiteside, we know, gets lackadaisical a lot. He's a great rim protector sometimes, but he goes more for blocks than anything else. It's more stat padding to me when you're watching him play. And he's questionable. He's not even guaranteed to play. So then you have your backup centers there, or your backup centers. Azubuike, Pascal, Gay. Just nobody to threaten him at all. So Jokic could be in a fantastic spot with or without Whiteside here, and that's why he's worth the 12-6. You just know he won't get under 50 points. You know that. 55 points. He won't get under that. So that outside of him, though, we don't know who's going to be in. If Jokic does miss and Cousins plays, yeah, I like Cousins as well for the same reasons. But don't know who's fully in there. The matchup is still not the greatest. It is the Jazz, even though they're missing Gobert, missing Mitchell. That's some firepower there on that side. Ingles as well. I don't mind a Will Barton at 5,700, especially if Jokic misses. Then him and Gordon and Monte Morris become in play. But if you have the money, I'd pay for Jokic. Outside of that, Barton of the rest. Jumping on over to the Jazz side of the ball, and there's some opportunity. If Whiteside does miss, as much as I was talking about Azubuike and Pascal, one of them's got to start, and they're both bare minimum. I don't love them, but you know what? It could be some garbage time in this one without 2 starters and a very important Joe Ingles. So I'll keep an eye on. I wouldn't mind throwing a Pascal in there and having him score 25 points in garbage time there. Not actual points, but fantasy points. And outside of that, Mike Conley's in a good matchup, but 7K is a little high for me. I would lean more towards Jordan Clarkson. With Joe Ingles out, it's interesting to see who's going to get that backup role. We could see Trent Forrest start. We could see Butler start. I'm more interested in Butler if he does draw that start. Or even not. Ingles is out, but we also have Mitchell out. Butler is a guy to take a chance on in tournaments, but do it at your own peril because he is 3,100 for a reason. But 2 of the last 3 games, he did score 26 fantasy points, so there is potential there if he can get the extra minutes, which I think he will. But as a starting, as of all the starters, Clarkson is the guy I'm keeping an eye on the most. I think just a lot of opportunity there. I shouldn't say as of the starters, but he plays starters minutes. A lot of opportunity there without these guys in there, and a pretty good matchup against the Nuggets. And someone's got to score. All right, last game of the night, we have the Portland Trailblazers taking on the Los Angeles Lakers, and we do have a spread for this one of the few. A 222 game total, and the Lakers are 1.5 point home favorites. Not often you're saying that lately, especially with out LeBron James, who we'll get to in a second, and the injury report. LeBron James, Doumbouya, Kendrick Nunn, all out for the Lakers, with Davis probable, Malik Monk probable as well. Then on the Blazers, Lillard, Little, Nance, Zeller all out. Watford questionable, with Ellerby questionable. Nurkic, Simons probable. We'll start with the other side of the ball on the Portland, who are the away team. McCollum, Simons, both in play for me. He can attack the guard positions here. Simons is dealing with a little bit of injury. He is probable, so he's going to play. And now he's a $1,400 discount, or $1,600 discount. I can't even count. It's Jim McCollum, so he is my preferred play. It's a little bit cheaper there. McCollum has been awesome since he's come back. He's averaging 20 shot attempts in his last 3 games after he got his feet wet for a week and a half there. But 40 points is well within reach for McCollum. He's going to get another 20 shots in this one, initiate some good amount of offense. He hasn't really brought back any defensive stats since he's come back, but that can certainly change. We know he's pretty good, usually on the defensive end. He is averaging a steal on the year, even with the last 2 weeks doing pretty much nothing. So we can put him in for a steal. Should expect some solid rebounds there. I expect 20 actual points at the minimum here again, but I do, all that said, prefer Simons. He can do the same exact thing, and he has a better matchup. We know Russell Westbrook tends to fall asleep sometimes, and he's $1,600 cheaper. So Simons is someone that I really like in this one. Nurkic actually had a big 46-point game against the Lakers in his lone matchup. We'll have AD there now, so it'll change a little bit. And he's 8K, so I'd prefer Nurkic. I'd prefer McCollum of the two if I had to. Robert Covington, 5,400. No Little, no Nance. Got to play a lot. He went 0-5 in the last game, all threes, and he still had 21 fantasy points. So even missing all of his shots, he still brought back 6 stocks, couple assists, couple rebounds. Good enough for near value there. I don't think he's going to miss every shot again, especially against this Laker team, and I really like him at 5,400. Powell, another guy, 6,300 is just a decent price. I do prefer Simons over him with the matchup. He's another guy to keep an eye on if you wanted to go against that grain. All right, on the Lakers side of the ball, Malik Monk, 5,300, can still in play. Price tag jumped up a little bit, but he's played 69 minutes in the last 2 games and taken 32 shots. If he's going to continue taking this type of volume without LeBron James, we know he's starting, but if he's taking all these shots, and even the last 3 games, he's taken 44 shots, 45 shots. So a lot to like here. Has at least 20 points in 2 of the last 3 games, back-to-back games of 5 assists, back-to-back 3 straight games of at least 4 rebounds. Lots to like here. He's playing a lot of minutes, a lot of opportunity without LeBron James, only 5,300, and a very good matchup against a bad defensive team. So like him here. Of the 2 higher price guys, you have AD, Westbrook. I do prefer Westbrook still. I think he's a triple-double is in the cards here against this Portland backcourt. And that's likely it. I don't really want to take a chance on Johnson or Tucker, Melo. All these guys have extra opportunity, but I would prefer Malik Monk instead of Melo, and Tucker and Johnson are just too volatile for me. All right. That does it for today's edition of DFS Today. Before we head on out of here, and I forgot to mention, last one, the Lakers were on the front end of a back-to-back, one of 2 teams with the Kings. Didn't mention that one before, but had to squeeze it back in there. All right, before we head on out of here, I will throw out my favorite tiered players of the night. We'll start with mid, high, low, any, mini, miny. We'll go with low. There are quite a few, and obviously we got to keep an eye on a lot of people. But one guy that I think is fairly safe from now until the tip-off time is the last Cedi Osman at 4,600. 12 assists in the last game. Yeah, he shot 3 of 16, but I'm not worried about that terrible shooting. I'm more impressed with these 12 assists and the 16 total shot attempts. And at only 4,600, his price tag only jumped up 400 because he shot so poorly. If he shot even 6 of 16, he would probably be 5,400 right now, 5,300. So I'll take that discount and run with it. In the mid tier, Isaiah Jackson, 5,400. I like a lot of these people in the mid tier, but Isaiah Jackson, we still have no Sabonis, no Turner, no Goga. Brissett is questionable. There should be another high 20s minutes in the cards here. I expect another double-double, and the stocks are there. So guy's been shooting fantastic from the field. He might not take 19 shots again, but he only needs 12. He'd probably make 8 of them. He's been that really good. He's shooting 52% from the field. And you just look at the last 10 days in the last 5 games, shooting almost 60% from the field. So been really, really good, and the stocks are there. Rebounds should come. And now, favorite high price play. There are quite a few. I'll stick away from the Super Saiyan tier. Everybody over even 10.5, so everyone jawing up, I'll stick away from. And I'll go more towards the reasonable price tags. And I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown, 8,700. Charlotte matchup. He already had a very big game against the Charlotte Hornets. He's averaging 47 fantasy points in 2 games against these guys. I expect that to continue again, near 50 points, and you don't have to pay up for the Super Saiyan tier, which I like a lot of them, but we'll leave that alone. All right, that does it again for another edition of DFS Today. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. We will catch you again tomorrow night. Peace.